You may remember 20 years ago, people were saying how important it would be to ensure that the Earth didn't go beyond 1.5 degrees hotter than pre-industrial levels. And for a long time, that 1.5 degree temperature rise was the benchmark, the potential tipping point beyond which runaway climate change could occur. Last year, 2023, was the hottest year on record by far, and it became extremely close to the 1.5 degree temperature rise between now and looking all the way back to before the Industrial Revolution. I think it's fair to say that despite a lot of work by environmental groups to change the way that we live, that environmental cause has essentially fundamentally failed. It's allowed small tweaks to our society. We recycle more. We are a little bit more aware of carbon emissions. Some people drive much more energy efficient cars. Nonetheless, our society is still very much framed around a structure that is extremely damaging to the environment and ultimately to ourselves. And so a lot of people are moving from environmentalism, which is a way of managing the environmental crisis, to ecologism, ecology being a way of fundamentally changing our relationship to each other and to the world around us. Instead of technological fixes, what they're looking at more is social and even spiritual ways to change our predicament. I have shifted in the last 20 years or so, I guess, from being an environmentalist to much more of an ecologist. And so I'm actually this year going to be sharing a number of presentations to our community that are based on the book that I've been hoping to write for the last 13 years. I've been working on it very slowly. Over my sabbatical, I read an insane number of books and took notes on books. I have hundreds of thousands of words of notes which I need to bring down into something palatable. And so what I'm going to be doing during the year 2024, a number of times during the year, is presenting essentially on a chapter of my book. And I'm still looking at which chapters I'm going to be sharing. Certainly one of the aspects that we're going to be looking at is whether or not human beings are fundamentally different to other creatures on the planet. And if we have a special responsibility towards them. And we'll be looking at our biblical texts and rabbinic texts to see what they think and then asking if they're correct. We'll also be looking at the idea of theology and how theology, I believe, is fundamental to our framing of society, how we actually set up our world based on our theology. And if our society is environmentally damaging, is that because, as I believe it is that because our theology is actually framed in such a way that it's environmentally damaging? And if it is, how do we change our theology? What can it change to while still being authentically Jewish? We'll also be looking at the idea of the world to come. And does the belief in the world to come affect the way that we behave in this world? If we believe that this is all there is, we're more likely to take better care of it. If we believe that after we die, we go off to somewhere else, somewhere non-earthly, then we're not as invested in making sure that this earth is protected. So that is similar to theology, the idea of looking at what is life and is there life after death. And we'll also almost certainly be looking at the idea of hope in Judaism. What does hope mean? And can hope be disempowering? As I do believe sometimes it can be. So there's quite a lot to look at. And don't worry, I won't throw hundreds of thousands of words at you. But over the coming months, you're going to see we're going to advertise these presentations. And I share this because we're running up to Tu BiShevat as well. And so I sent out, and hopefully you received it on Wednesday, with the e-digest, a copy of Journeys to Tu BiShevat. This is something that I wrote not long after I arrived here 10 years ago. I've updated it, including changing Celsius to Fahrenheit. I didn't notice that. And it's a calendar of readings that started on Wednesday, but you can catch up, that lead us all the way to Tu BiShevat in 2 weeks' time. Tu BiShevat is the new year for trees. And very often Jewish environmental groups would say, quickly plant a tree, and then everything is done. Everything is fixed, the world is perfect again. But I've shared readings and actions. The readings, I think, are really important because it helps us reassess our relationship to the world. It's a more ecological perspective. And the actions are more environmental. So I'm trying to hold both. So I do encourage you to have a look at the Journeys to Tu BiShevat handout, which you can find on the Temple website, and you can also find in the e-digest that went out on Wednesday. It's just a few boxes down. I hope that it's meaningful for you. I hope it's powerful for you. And I hope that you'll be able to join us, not just this coming Shabbat for our Bar Mitzvah ceremony that we have tomorrow, and indeed for a number of things that we have, a number of events that are coming up. But I hope you'll be able to join us as we explore Jewish environmentalism and Jewish ecologism and whether or not we can square them in the years to come. A quick addition that this coming Sunday is 100 days since the start of that terrible war, since that terrible attack on October the 7th, which means some of the hostages have been held for 100 days. There's a march that's taking place. It starts at Chabad at 2 p.m. on Sunday. If you're able to, they encourage you to go and join. It's also sponsored by the JCRCNM, the Jewish Community Relations Council of New Mexico, of which we're a part. And so if you're able to attend that, then please do go and show your support for those hostages who have been languishing for 100 days in terrible conditions. But I do want to end on a positive note, that even though it is extremely cold at the moment, even though the weather seems to be really closing in on us, we can definitely find the warmth of community this coming Shabbat, tonight in our Kabbalat Shabbat services, and tomorrow particularly in Torah study, which is a rather interesting one about whose staff actually strikes the Nile, and also that's going to be on Zoom only, and also Ari's Bar Mitzvah ceremony. If you're feeling the winter chill, then we encourage you to join us for some community warmth. I wish you Shabbat Shalom.